November 1st, 1969. Oliver was steamed down last night and sat unable to move near the door. Clarence and Jerome, Arthur's crew at the time, were getting Arthur steamed up, even though we couldn't leave. They explained that they were going to search for Ari and Bert. We were shocked. We hadn't even thought about those two. Arthur ran up and down throughout the smelting shed for several hours until giving up. He hadn't seen Ari and Bert, and we needed to conserve coal. After a few minutes of silence, Arthur decided to tell us how he escaped the hail and why he was on the Peel God-Red line. Arthur was at Kronk when the hail started and was emptying a passenger train. When the freeze hit, the passengers ran inside the station. Arthur decoupled and ran backwards up the Peel God-Red line in an attempt to reach the smelter's yard. As he advanced down the line, he heard a whistle. Without a second thought, Arthur stopped and went back down the line. We were there, and he picked us up. It wasn't the most interesting story, but it kept us entertained, and it kept Oliver sane, as he was very uneasy in the smelting shed, especially considering he escaped from one only a few months prior. Just as Arthur finished telling his story, the sound of a train was heard in the distance. We knew it had to be heading towards us. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to hear it. There are no other lines nearby. At first, we thought it was Ari and Bert, but then we heard a whistle that was completely unfamiliar. A very old emerald green engine arrived at the smelters looking very cold. Her buffer beam had been heavily damaged and the lower left half of her face was bruised and scarred horribly. Arthur quickly calmed down and asked her what happened and who she was. Oliver just looked at her in shock. Toad was just as surprised. She wasn't in the mood to talk, but she explained anyway. Her name was Emily and she was recently purchased by the Fat Controller from the National Railway Museum. She was heading down the mainline light engine to meet up with the rest of the engines at Knapford when the freeze hit. She continued for a while before some points up ahead were set against her, and she derailed. Emily's crew desperately tried to re-rail her, but it was no use. Emily explained that she had no idea where any of this had happened as she was unfamiliar with the island. After that, she heard a horn. Daisy rolled over and was shocked to see Emily so bruised and battered. She pulled her back onto the rails and they continued down the freezing main line. Then they heard a scream and a huge banging sound. Daisy was not moving and screaming violently. Then she turned into what looked like an ice statue. Terrified, Emily raced down the main line before coming to the frozen point set to the Peel God-Red branch. The story scared all of us. Oliver decided to figure out what was going on. Oliver decoupled from Toad and we positioned him ready to leave in the morning. Arthur picked up Toad and Emily was parked in a siding. Oliver and Emily were steamed down as we prepared to go to sleep. Tomorrow, we would leave here and find out what was going on.